everybody. Welcome to the Underrated Podcast. This is a brand new podcast where we discuss the films that we feel are underrated or perhaps underappreciated, or even ones that have just slipped under the radar, passing most people by. My name is Ariel, and I am joined by my brother Sergio and our friends Alan, Fred, and Derek. And this show is a collaboration of friends and podcasters comprised of all of us. And together we are the Undercast Company.
Word.
Today we're going to be talking about the movie Saving Mr. Banks, a 2013 Disney film starring Tom Hanks, Emma Thompson, Colin Ferrell, Paul Giamatti, Jason Schwarzman, BJ Novak, and Bradley Whitford. I say more names than I normally do because there are just so many well-known names in this movie. The film received pretty good reviews with a 7.5 on IMDb and a certified fresh 79% score on Rotten Tomatoes. And with a $35 million budget, it made its money back in spades, making a little over $117.9 million worldwide. We consider this a more under-the-radar movie amongst the Disney repertoire of amazing films, which their live actions usually do compared to their animated behemoths. Similar to the other Disney live-action movies that were previously discussed, of Pete's Dragon and Sorcerer's Apprentice, which are available on our other episodes of our podcast, wherever you listen to wherever you're listening to this podcast. So, guys, what did you think of this movie overall?
I liked it.
Okay, so I chose this movie.
Tell him.
Because, Soldier Boy.
Sergio in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Soldier Boy, tell him. I chose this because, one, I am a Disney kind of runs in our family. My mom works at Disneyland, and she kind of introduced and our grandmother. My great grandfather served in World War I. Who my great grandfather and saw Walt Disney and said hi to him and shot Germans with each other.
Shout out to
trip. Me and Fred were on that.
I worked there.
We both worked in Disneyland too.
All right, so yeah,
I didn't.
We were there.
I'm the odd guy out.
And well, that's okay because this movie is kind of like the odd guy movie in terms of Disney movies because this was released alongside with Frozen the same year, correct?
Like maybe a week or two after.
So a week or two after Frozen. It's very weird, but the reason why I like it is because it does tell the story of this beloved film that we all love, Mary Poppins. And first of all, that movie itself is groundbreaking, but just watching this movie tell the story behind that movie is really touching to me, and I think it's bold for Disney themselves to kind of point fun at themselves in terms of their story, but also kind of honor it, and it kind of preserves the story of Mary Poppins in a way that the movie itself couldn't have done. And so that's basically my overall perspective on what this movie stands as. But in terms of like the technicalities, we'll get into that later on.
Yeah, I'll just get into it and say that, I did say I'm kind of the odd guy out when it comes to Disney. I do like Disney stuff, but when it comes to Mary Poppins especially, really, I had seen, obviously, the original when I was a kid. I never saw the sequel. I don't really know that much about Mary Poppins, so I kind of just watched this movie as its own thing, as opposed to, I think, a lot of people, watched it in relation to, their relationship to Mary Poppins, where I was kind of like, oh, I remember these songs vaguely. But that being said, I think as a movie just standing on its own, about a creator, it works amazingly. I really related a lot to her, P.L. Travers, Emma character, as because I'm an aspiring author too, and you do feel a deep connection. But she's great. All the minor characters are great. Walt Disney is played to perfection by Tom Hanks because you can see he's got that jovial thing, but there's a little bit of a darkness there. It's a little bit of the greed and the things he's hiding from the world, but he's still
the businessman.
Exactly, he's got the businessman. He's the creator. It was deep inside, but he's got to be the businessman too. And I just overall I thought it was just a really well told, interesting story. And I think I did not know this movie had flashbacks or Colin Ferrell in it, which I fucking love Colin Ferrell. Anytime I see him in anything, I'm like, yes, yes, yes. This guy is one of the greatest actors of our generation, in my opinion. And I love the way they handle the flashbacks because over the course of the movie, it does kind of become more apparent that she is kind of, at least through the flashbacks, it is a little bit of an unreliable narration, and it's just what you've seen from her memories, and they are not exactly what exactly happened. He starts off Colin Farrell's character, her father, as a kind of darker or a very, very jovial character. he becomes more dark as the movie goes along, and as her memories of him later in life are a lot more clouded, and they become mixed together with the film that they're writing. I love that scene where he's saying the speech that they're writing. That gets mixed together, and when you see him first pull out the flask on the train, and I see the flask, I'm like, okay, he's going to become an alcoholic. No one in a movie that has ever drank from a flask has not become an alcoholic. It happens in every single movie. But I really love that aspect of all the kind of unreliable narration memory. Sergio, you look like you want to say something to that.
Oh, what? No. I'm just holding my peace. But I would like to hear what District 6 likes or has something to say about this movie, because I know this movie is very Disney propagandic. And
yeah. Because for those of you guys who don't know, this is the story about P.L. Travers and Disney's quest to get the rights to make her book, Mary Poppins, into the iconic movie.
So, Fred, what should we say about our former boss?
Yeah, the corrupt as well. Nah,
Walter Knott?
Nah, my man.
When's the Walter Knott movie coming out?
It's the movie. The movie's good. Now I'm gonna tell you this. Starting off, when I first started watching it, I kid you not, I was like, "Yo, this is gonna be a boring movie." Straight up. I turned it on and I started watching a little bit of it. I go, "Oh, this is not gonna be what I wanted it to be." After I started kind of going into it, you start seeing some of the flashbacks. You start kind of getting a little bit more into the story of Mary Poppins, like the movie and the way they're going to try to make it, and then her interactions with Walt Disney and stuff, and you kind of get more intrigued for the backstory of, you know, why she seems so bitchy, and then you realize that no, she seemed like a fucking bitch. Like I straight up saw this movie and I was like, okay, so I'm going to see Walt Disney trying to fucking swindle.
Can I interrupt and say that at the end of this movie you should have been like, this bitch should have just took a spoonful of sugar to make the medicine go down.
That's what I thought. Nice. No, I was like, at first I thought this is gonna be a movie about Walt Disney trying to swindle this bitch out of her fucking movie. Straight up, I originally thought that's what it was, and in a way,
our former boss.
No,
really?
And it was gonna be
good
like
old Walt.
but put in a nice
Disney?
way. But you know what? When I saw it, you know, there was a lot of heart to it. There's a lot of stuff to it. I enjoyed it, and there were times where I was a little like, but it was. I kid you not, though, I did pause the movie a couple times when I was watching. It's just too much cringe for me, like in the sense of when the dad's getting drunk and how you feel bad for the girl, like you just feel bad for her. And I was like, man, I can't take this. I don't want to get punished watching a movie. And that's what I felt when I was watching her scenes. Like it hurt to watch some shitty ass dad do his shit. Now I get it that he's still at the same time he's still a good dad, and that's what sucks, because you're like, man, this guy's cool and he's trying for his family. But then you realize, no, he skipped out of work because he doesn't want to fucking work because he's drunk.
And I think
that's why he's there playing with the kids.
The memories of him being a good dad and a bad dad kind of mixing together.
Yeah, because you as a kid, you only see your dad. She began to notice how shitty his dad was the moment she went to the bank and the guy was like, I was going to fire you because your kid's here. And that's when she realizes my dad ain't shit.
Yep.
And that's when your whole world crumbles.
Well, it comes down to also like that, coming from that, like this interpretation of how you see not just your parents but other adults through the eyes of a child, and in your childhood how you see them originally, and then kind of like that veil, the veil slowly being drawn back little by little throughout this movie and her childhood, in a sense, kind of being taken away by her experiences in a way.
You know, but the only thing I was wondering this whole time is, I'm assuming the mother died probably, right? Because, you know, maybe they're older. Where the fuck's the sister at?
Oh, you mean when she's older? They're in Australia.
No, but when they're older, because
The aunt?
They're in Australia.
Or are you talking about her
sister?
Her
No,
sister?
just her sister.
Yeah, they're probably back to still Australia because that's where she's from.
Yeah, I think like at that experience, I don't know the story of P.L.
I know,
Travers that much,
like I said, no, I was just wondering because since they were all in the picture, I thought you might get a sense of like where people were at the end. Not that it's important, not that it had anything to do. I just said I just wondered like, I wonder where the fuck people
like
are at.
She was a very secluded person, and I don't know the story of P.L. Travers.
Yo,
but
what
I
about?
wouldn't be surprised if
What
it
about?
was,
Now that you've seen the movie, though, you know.
I thought she was gonna go sleep with a driver.
My boy Paul Giamatti.
They had a connection. They gave each other a hug. It was very.
Oh man, he had a wife
He
and
had
a
a-
kid.
yeah.
And a paralyzed kid or whatever.
When this movie take place? What year did it take place?
in the 60s.
Yeah.
In the 60s. And when did guys give a shit in the 60s about what women want?
Well, a nice person that like Paul G.
Just saying.
Well, the thing about Paul Giamatti's character is that
I
it was a
agree.
culmination of a bunch of different drivers that she had. So yeah, but I did. Yeah, I don't think they wanted to paint that picture.
I just seemed like they had a really tight connection. Like if you guys saw the movie I saw, right, which was
I did not
her
pick
digging,
up on that.
because they were digging that little mold. They were putting a little flower together. They were having like a nice conversation. The only guy that she actually genuinely talked to, this is what I'm saying. The only guy that she genuinely talked to there out of everybody, and actually had a conversation and actually remembered his and was happy to see him.
Yeah,
no, but I'm saying like,
well, because she starts off too,
but then she
gives
gives
like
him
an
a hug.
underling, and then they evolve. She kind of learns to treat him like a person.
That was the underlying thing that we missed. Disney was trying to, hey, for the adults, let me give you a story. Here's a little story I'm about to tell.
You reading this in this.
I'm telling you guys, if you guys saw the same movie I did, which you should.
How many times have we not looked in between the lines for every Disney animated film?
What you guys got to do is open up your third eye, open up your chakra, open up that soul, and see it. Thank you.
I'm on you.
Thank you.
I believe you, because how many times have we seen sex when Simba and Nala jump into the flowers? How many times have we seen the dick buildings in Little Mermaid VHS cover?
There you go.
That's true.
It's there.
Hey, didn't they also say that the chef that was chasing a Little Mermaid had an erection?
No, it wasn't the chef. It was the priest.
That's who it was. And see, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes you got to look underneath. You need to see it.
My favorite foreign boss was Disney.
That's right.
Disney loves to throw shit.
I mean, I knew talking about a Disney movie, we were going to talk about all the conspiracy stuff, and I love it. That's why I.
that's why you genuinely picked
because
this
there's so
movie,
much stuff to talk about.
Did you know Bolt, the dog, was voiced by Bruce Willis?
Oh, yeah, it's true.
No, he wasn't. It's John Travolta.
Wow.
Scientologist.
I know, I fucking just throw that out there.
You're thinking of Oliver and Company. Dodger.
No, it wasn't Oliver. Doesn't Oliver and Company
Bruce Willis.
No. Wasn't Oliver?
No, that was just a random fucking joke.
Hang on.
I was trying to fuck with people.
I will bet you $20 right now.
I'm going to look that up.
He's joking. I understood.
I'm fucking around. No. I'm trying to make conspiracy theories out of nothing.
All right.
Okay.
What'd you think of the movie, though, Alan?
Oh, I thought it was wonderful. Like, honestly, for me, I'm a big fan of like film, obviously, but I love like the behind the scenes. Like I like Tom Hanks was spellbinding. Like he was just so
fucking good.
Oliver was the cat,
like,
right?
Like, you know what it felt like? It was like
he even did the 2-finger or 4-finger Disney point.
Exactly. No, that's what when me and Fred were working there, we had to be taught that. Like you can't point with one finger. You have to do 4 or 2. It was 4 or 2.
He did that.
I still do that to this day. But what I loved was just like Tom Hanks was wonderful. He was just so good, so great. Like it felt like Santa Claus.
I don't think anyone else could have really pulled it off. Like
nobody,
no other actor can do it.
Because every time, I'm so sorry, but every time Homeboy was just trying to sell it, he's like, "Yo, I'm just trying to make Mary Poppins. I'm trying to do it for you. I'm just
for
trying
my kids.
My daughters out there,
going.
you know, my daughters, they love your books. Now, Beverly, what was her name? Pamela. Thank you, Pamela. Please let me have the books because my daughters, you know, and I understand it because I made the mouse, and I would love to have the daughters. They just love it. I made a promise. You got to keep a promise.
Exactly, and dude, it was like fucking Santa Claus. It was like Santa Claus trying to sell you a deal, and the whole fucking time I was like, dude. Fucking take it. What is wrong with you? It's Santa. I mean, obviously now we think about it because we see all these amazing pictures come out of Disney over like almost 100 years. But that's because when I saw it, I'm like, oh yeah, I know all the history behind it. But like when watching it, she's just like, nah, dude, I ain't about that life. And he's like, don't be a bitch. I'm fucking Santa Claus. I am. I created Disneyland.
Yeah.
In our hometown here. And lovely.
Yeah, so I'm watching this, and my roommate comes about halfway through out the movie, and it's the part where he's like, "Hey, let's go to Pamela. We're going to Disneyland." And he's like, "How many people can say they would have a tour of Disneyland from Disney itself?" My roommate just goes, "I would give my fucking right arm to get a tour of Disneyland from Disney."
Fuck yeah. And like she was just so like, no, dude, fuck you. I don't care about who you are, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, dude, this guy, it's fucking Santa Claus.
But I get it too.
That's what makes it interesting though, because you see Pamela Travers. It's a very good clash of characters because you're like Disney's like this Santa Claus of a figure, and then you guys, I don't care. I'm you know.
And I get it from her perspective. As being an author, like, and you know, like that kind of creator, you love your creations. You don't want to see somebody else do something with them that you wouldn't do. You know. So I get both sides.
You want it adapted correctly. You want it to come out exactly how you want it, but at the same time, it's just this lovely like it's just this whole battle between each other where you're like. I want him to do it because it's Disney, but at the same time, you're like, I appreciate creations, like I like creators. I like creators doing their own fucking thing and adapting their own thing. Like especially like movies nowadays, where like Quentin Tarantino, he writes, he directs, sometimes he acts his own films and his pictures.
Sadly, he acts in them.
I'm sorry?
I said sadly he acts.
Sadly he acts Australian.
Django, what's going on there, Django?
Django, you're nothing but a slave.
I'm an Australian, Django.
I'm Australian. Yeah,
with that whole thing about Disney did say in the movie that he did sympathize with what she was going through because it happened to him with Oswald, and then it almost happened to him again with Mickey.
Oswald Cobblepot?
Oswald the Lucky Rabbit.
Oswald the Lucky Rabbit.
My
Snatched
guy.
away.
Oswald.
And they traded him back for a sportscaster 80 years
Yeah,
ago.
Homeboy.
hey,
No, I get you, but Homeboy had to get
Pixar's
bought back
Up
from
Easter egg.
Universal.
Charles Mintz or Muntz was based off
It
of
wasn't
Charles
Universal?
Mintz or Muntz, the Universal
Universal. I thought it
executive
was Warner
who
Brothers.
stole
No, Universal
Oswald.
took it.
Wow.
Sorry.
Top
Just like
10.
they took the Hulk.
Yeah. Go ahead, my guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, for me, of course, I love this movie. Like, I mean, me and Junior came from a Disney family ourselves. But yeah, it's just it was such a deep movie. Like, just going from like the heartbreakingness of P.L. Travers' story, that was like really well told, and then going back to watching it this time, I realized that, like I said earlier, that like, you know, the tragedy was always there in the background, but because the story is being told by a child's eyes, it's someone hidden, and so that initial viewing of it, you don't really notice this like downward spiral that's happening. So I felt like that was like just an incredible way of telling the story of P.L. Travers. And this movie does, if you are a Disney fan, this movie is like just a love letter to you and to the Disney culture, and it does just an incredible justice to not just Walt Disney himself, but about his legacy. And like the first look that you see of Paul Giamatti's character is with the classic happy to help Disney cast member like attitude, and as well as the Mickey Mouse pin on his that he wears on his lapel, and how it holds so much importance as like the American flag.
Hold on,
pin.
I don't want to interrupt, but did you see that Paul Giamatti had also a pin of making it there? And I swear to God, for a second there, remember when she was signing the book for him? I know it's just me, but I wish it would have been that he had the contract there and she would have signed the contract and he was like, "Gotcha, bitch," and then he was gonna go back.
Yes.
Right,
That would've been fucking
right, because that's what I thought. Because I
nasty.
saw the pin, like I was a close up, but I bet you it's something that everybody that works there has to wear. But I just saw it and I was like, "Yo, he's gonna be like, you signed the contract," because she threw it back at Walt, and then he's the one driving her, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Yo, Walt Disney
Well, it's
fucking
like-
did it. He fucking did it again.
That's like a politician wears the American flag pin. on his
Another
lapel.
fucking banger.
But that
Another
would've
banger.
been- yeah, you never know. That might have happened. And
Yeah.
propaganda's just trying to hide it from us.
Damn."
I'm just kidding.
I'm just saying. I think the espionage part would have made this movie just that much higher in quality.
Dude, right?
It just
That would've
becomes
been
a spy
fucking
thriller
sick.
Yeah.
halfway through.
A spy thriller of just trying to get the rights of a book.
Yes,
That'd be fucking
yes,
hype. And
yes.
I mean, it's not like
And then
when I
007
used to
just
work
comes out.
there, we weren't trained
I don't know what you're
to
talking
do
about.
things like that.
Okay.
This is all
Well, going
false.
back to
I was
my-
never trained to do things like that under the Walt Disney Company.
Well,
But I digress. Ariel?
going back to my point, how it shows culture that Disney inspired in the people around him, and it continues to inspire of the cast members. If you don't know, the cast members are employees of the Disney company, of spreading magic and being proud of the work that they do, and even if it is just being a simple driver. So I felt like like this whole movie for me was, again, a love letter to Walt Disney.
They heard
Walt
what
Disney's
you're saying now, and
legacy.
the plane's flying over right now. Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah.
If you guys
Oh.
hear the plane in the background, they're onto us.
They're
Yeah.
onto us. We're literally across the street from Disneyland, so they probably heard us.
We're praising Disney. We should be thinking they should be dropping confetti on us right now. But yeah, it was a love letter, and it was a very enjoyable love letter to Disney culture, Disney fans, and just Walt Disney himself.
Yeah. Do you guys want to talk about the elephant in the room, which is a lot of people accuse this
Dumbo?
movie of being Dumbo propaganda? Like, that's why they made this. There's a lot of people who have this conspiracy that they literally only made this movie so they could make the sequel to Mary Poppins, and that it would make them look good. What do you guys think about that?
If anything, and I said this earlier before to you guys, if anything, I think that watching this movie makes the fact that the existence of a Mary Poppins Returns movie even more insulting, because the fact that it does not need to exist, and it wouldn't have existed, but the only reason why it exists is because of Disney's current climate, that because it's gonna make money, and even if it's of quality, it doesn't need to exist.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, this movie had a weird kind of road to being made, and where it clearly was not made originally by Disney. It was started as like an indie film that was like kind of being looked at by the BBC, and it was inspired by a documentary actually about Peel Travers.
And it was that documentary was released by BBC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the movie actually, they had to go to Disney to get the rights to do it, obviously, because they have Walt Disney as a character in this movie. Disney looked at it, they said, okay, we'll just buy the rights to it. And they were thinking about maybe just like shelving it because they're like, this is not the greatest look for Disney. But they said, what, let's actually just put it out ourselves. And they just kind of owned it. They're like, we're going to, for the first time ever, have Walt Disney like as a major character in a movie. This never happened before. And I think they did a good, even job with it, honestly.
Yeah, well, I think it gives me more. This movie gives me more respect to Disney because the past is the past, and it's good. It's to recognize your leader's flaws is a great thing because it's like, he wasn't the best person, but he was a person, and as a he was Disney, and so.
Yeah, and while
it gives me more respect for the company as a whole.
Not 100% historically accurate. I'm not one of those people who's like, oh, you know what, this movie didn't get it right, historically accurate, so it's not like Amadeus is one of my favorite movies ever. Scolari did not kill Mozart in real life. That's not like destroying like this guy's reputation. People know it's fiction. Same thing with the movie. It's not all going to be completely, but it is a movie. It's not a documentary.
It wasn't 100%,
that makes sense.
But they did use, for example, like Disney wasn't there for like the beginning of P.L. Travers' visit to to California, but
they took some liberties. But
yeah, but I mean, they also did add some historical elements to it because there were correspondence that were used as dialogue for this movie.
But I was gonna say, here's my thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's Disney, right? Disney puts out this movie. Won't people kind of maybe take this into fact? Because it almost seems like it's a story of like Walt Disney and some of his stuff. Like, won't it kind of help their image in the sense of like to their own fans who matter the most, honestly?
Well, yeah, this movie does honor a lot of Disney fans, like a lot of things that you wouldn't even catch if you weren't a Disney fan. So, I mean, obviously, I think they're already going into this movie a little bit based. They without
Biased?
this, without even based.
Biased.
Without this movie,
All about that bass, no trouble.
No trouble. Without this movie already, if they're going into it with that mindset, then it's like, well, then all this is gonna do is reinforce it. I mean, like I said, it does go into flaws of Disney as a person, but I mean, it still is Disney, and he smokes behind doors because he doesn't want to spread bad habits.
I think that scene was pretty metaphorical because it's like, yeah, there is this other side to Disney that you don't get. It's not just the smoking, but it is like there is this other side of him. That
There's a lot of
that he's keeping covered up from everybody.
He's trying every sort of tactic to get the rights to this book, and I found it strange how they were already working on Mary Poppins before he even secured the rights to it. That was very strange. Maybe that was just another tactic of his to show P.L. Travers what they were doing. But yeah, like he brought her to Disneyland. He flew to England himself, then to her house, just to meet with her and tell her like, I'm gonna treat this property with respect, and so that was very interesting to see from Disney, of Walt Disney of all people. This Santa Claus, Santa Claus flies to your house and says, "Give me your property."
But I think it also shows like I don't know if this was really it didn't really happen in real life, but it kind of like the one thing that I really enjoyed about this is that it kind of ended up being that it showed similarities between the two basically artistic creators that were butting heads throughout this whole movie. That P.L. Travers' judgment of Walt might have been stern from both like similarity, him being. Well,
there are certain parallels, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, there were parallels to her and him, but also there were parallels to him and her father, and mainly about there was these certain elements I really enjoyed about the similarities of like this is possibly kind of like maybe trying to explain her disdain for him in a way of like how especially like with Walt being a father that is trying to keep the promises to his little girls, and might have kind of triggered her in a way because her father tried to do the same for her and her sisters, And,
yeah, her father was a very
that-
Disney-like kind of figure,
Yeah.
where he was like all about the fun, but he had that darker side too.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably why she was so like adamant about being like, no,
Yeah,
I don't want my own property, because like when you think about it, when you create something and it has such fame, it's like having a child. And when you have a child, you want your child to be successful. You want them to go out and be big, kind of thing. And I think her whole thing was like a parallel between Disney being like this huge, like Santa Claus-esque kind of figure, Jesus figure, whatever. Like when you say Disney, everybody goes, I know what you mean.
And that's also like why she might have had resentment, because he is a father that could have
Exactly.
the power to keep
And
his
he
promises.
mentions it, and like you said, he mentions it that like, I'm trying to keep my promises with my children. She's probably like, no, fuck that. I don't want you to
you
do
know
it
what I
because
thought I saw?
was wronged at one point in my own life.
No, you know what I saw is she literally wrote the story is the story of her family's life.
yeah.
Mr. Banks is her father, and that's why she gets mad when she goes, why do you make him to be such a mean man? He is not a mean man. Mary Poppins is the aunt. I mean, this literally is maybe her perfect vision
Yeah, and you
of
even
what her
see
family's
that,
missing.
when she
Yeah.
takes out the stuff of the bag, it's like in a very Mary Poppins
Yeah.
way, where it's impossible, and that's kind of like her
Exactly.
memories of her aunt are more of this kind of perfect figure, this Mary Poppins-esque figure,
Yeah.
than probably what she actually
And
was.
I think that's why she had such a hard time letting it go, because she goes, why are you trying to change my perfect vision of what I saw in my family, my nucleus?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
Yeah.
when an author writes a book, they're putting their all into it.
Yeah.
Every little fucking
No, and I
thing.
get that, but I'm saying I think this is even one step further than just that. Like, this is literally like, this is my family
Yeah,
life. Like,
it's
I'm
it's
like
catharsis.
no, it's an autobiography. Is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's an autobiographical catharsis kind of
Like,
book.
because it's essentially, she literally, like she said, she started crying with Mr. Banks, and then she even started crying on screen when she saw his redemption arc, because she feels like my dad's gonna be redeemed in
Yeah.
this thing.
Yeah, and
Because
I
it
think-
literally was my dad, my aunt, my mom. You know, the brother is probably like the other sister, and it's all these. It's basically her family, which she wish she had, was like the perfect life.
Yeah, and I think that's why the flashbacks are kind of effective too,
Yeah.
because the flashbacks are going hand in hand with the development
Yes.
of Mary Poppins, the film. You know, as we're basically seeing the meaning of Mary Poppins and each scene, what it means to her and what it came from, basically in her life. This is what it came from. And then going back, that scene, the speech, with his speech being synced to the
Kind of
Banks song,
intermingling, yeah.
intermingling, that was so that was very creative. Like, that one little moment out of this entire movie did catch you, and it's like, oh my god, this is really they're really going into it, you know what I mean?
Oh,
So just seeing that, and then the whole thing, just seeing where this came from and how sad it was too, that was really effective for me.
Yeah. So do you guys want to go into why you guys think this movie has kind of been more of an under the radar movie? Why it wasn't a big Disney tentpole?
Well, like we said earlier, this came about around the time as Frozen did, so that definitely took it definitely took the what's that word? The basically
Stole its thunder?
Yeah, it stole its thunder basically, especially from Disney.
Because I don't think it was heavily promoted.
It wasn't.
It was
too
kind of
much.
because it was based on an indie film, and it does have that indie film style. It's not like a big doesn't feel like a big summer Disney tentpole.
Yeah, and definitely if you're a true Disney fan, then you were definitely acknowledged about it. But also because it's kind of a theme that we've been seeing with these podcasts of Disney live action movies, even though they're very well done and really good, they don't really gain as much traction as Disney's animation.
Yeah. Sometimes they'll have the big breakout ones, but it's like 1 in 3 or 4. You know,
Yeah.
You'll have your Pirates of the Caribbean. You have for every one of those you have 5 or 6 Saving Mr. Banks.
Yeah, exactly. So I think
You'll have
that
your Black Cauldron, or you'll have your Pete's Dragon, all that stuff,
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the underratedness of this movie does translate to it being Disney, and it's like one of those in those standalone Disney movies where it's just kind of it's not their big money maker, it's just a movie, and that's why I like it, because it's just a movie that they made. But there are choices in the movie that I kind of they don't like. that I don't like, at least. And a lot of that is the cheesiness that goes along with it being a Disney movie. But that kind of cheesiness does work sometimes because of like the Hacksaw Ridge effect, where it's like it's super cheesy. Like the choice of music is cheesy, the editing at times is cheesy, and very like childish. But then that also kind of like makes the kind of alcoholism and like the depressionness of her childhood even more surreal.
Yeah.
Because of
And unlike Hacksaw Ridge, I think it was done really well in this movie.
Oof. Okay. Well, I mean, in Hacksaw Ridge, it's like, oh, we're frolicking a field of flowers. Will you marry me? Will you be my girl? And then next thing you're in the trenches and watching people like get blown off, limbs blown off and killing Japanese. So
Splendid.
Very splendid.
Yeah. But yeah.
But underratedness, just Disney in general. It's just like there's sides of Disney that make money and there's sides of Disney that people do not really care about.
Well, if I can go into detail, I think it's very underrated. I think it's a very wonderful film. I'm a dude who loves like the behind the scenes. I love the behind the scenes of the big picture of everything like that. I know right now, I think they just dropped Framing John DeLorean, which I'm so fucking excited to watch.
Yeah.
I cannot wait, especially because I love the vehicle, not specifically just because of Back to the Future, but just because that whole story behind it
It's
just
such
makes
an
it
interesting
so provocative.
story.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that kind of. It's like there's a quote in Community how he says, Hearts of Darkness, the documentary about making Apocalypse Now, is much better than Apocalypse Now. And it's kind of like the story behind the
Yeah, or even like what is it, Room 232?
Yeah, Room 237 is amazing.
It's fucking amazing. Like I like the Shining book better.
It's a
than the
documentary
movie
about
Shining.
crazy people and their theories about The Shining.
But
it's great.
the documentary of The Shining is fucking fantastic. But this movie exactly, especially since I've worked with the company like 10 years ago, and like there was a scene where like they're making the music for Mary Poppins, like preemptively, prematurely making the music. And I remember just seeing that scene. I was like, I've been there. I've worked there. Where like that magic that they're trying to create, they're trying to make it. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, Fred probably knows himself, but like when I was working there, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed working there. I liked it a lot. I just had to quit because of familial reasons. But like stuff like that where like, they're trying to make the music and they're trying to go all they're out. Like they're just trying to like go full ham on it. I was like, dude, yes, I was there. Not in that moment, but I was there in the park where they're telling you like how you need to go ham. You need to make these people feel like they're away. And then every time I was there working, like you look up to the sky, you just see plants and trees and everything. You're not there. You're not in Anaheim, California. You're in Disneyland.
Yeah, the Disney bubble.
And
it's a real thing.
That's what Ariel was going on about. Like every little cast member does, and like this does go into that whole Disney thing. Like even the driver Paul Giamatti had that like Disney magic in it. And while we were watching the movie, when they entered Disneyland and Paul Giamatti, the driver, got excited at like, oh my god, it's him. Ariel asked me, is he doing that as an employee or is he like genuinely excited that he's seeing Walt Disney? I said, yes. Don't know.
He's doing it because it's him.
Know.
Like, even if I was working there, I mean, when I was working there and like somehow Walt Disney was still alive and he fucking rolled up, I would probably be like, oh shit, it's the boss. I'd probably like fucking get my shit straight. I worked in New Orleans, so I'd get my vest all nice and ready, fix up my tie and shit. I'd be like, dude, it's the boss. Like, I can't fuck around. And like, cause there is magic. Like, I mean, even like when I was working there, there's times where people are like, you can't even go into the wrong land. Like I was in New Orleans and I went to fucking Tomorrowland. I had to book it. And even then, what I appreciated about that was they're like, dude, if you're walking past that line, get the fuck backstage because you can't ruin the magic. And even there was even times where I was like, yeah, I don't want to fuck it up. Because I would see the characters backstage, I'd see Darth Maul training or whatever. I'd see the princesses, getting all dolled up and stuff. And it does ruin the magic for me because I'm working there. But I've literally seen, sorry to spoil the magic for the people that love Disney. I've seen, a 5'1" girl put on the fucking Mickey helmet or mask or whatever and walk to the front.
Wow,
and
secrets,
it's
wow.
Magic. Like you literally see, like from one end to the other, I'm seeing her put it on. She's kind of just like, whatever, shoulders down, poor posture. And then as soon as she walks through that threshold, fucking everybody loses their shit. They're like, oh my God, that's Mickey Mouse. And I can see like from both worlds, so like I just love shit like that. So that's why I love that movie so much when I watched it. Cause like I remember seeing it at a hotel. I was on vacation myself. My girlfriend was taking a shower, and it just showed up on TV, and I was enthralled because I was like, oh shit, this is like what I went through. Like, in a similar aspect, not exactly. I'm not fucking, I didn't make Mary Poppins or anything. I was just a lowly fucking host in New Orleans. But just that kind of magic, like just seeing that, like, hey, like, dude, I want to fucking make this. I want people to be blown away by like the magic that you've made, and I want to adapt it in my own way as well. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah,
you know,
that's a really good way to put it. But yeah, I think we all would definitely recommend this movie, right, guys? Like I'd never seen it before. It really surpassed my expectations. I really loved it a lot. I was just kind of like, oh, this might be interesting.
And again,
great.
Fucking Tom Hanks, spellbinding.
Oh, my
wonderful.
God.
Well, Sergio joked, but that Tom Hanks is on a mission to play every American hero, cultural hero that's ever been born.
Tom Hanks is going to be Pancho Villa in the next movie.
Well, he's going to be Mr. Rogers next, and then he was Sully after this too.
Well, Tom Hanks is going to be, I think, what was it, like 2020 release, Martin Luther King. Yeah,
makes sense. He's going to be every iconic person ever.
After he got cast, he said it was like, I'll quote, an opportunity to play someone as world-shifting as Picasso or Chaplin. So, like, he
exactly
had the respect
I
for it.
completely agree with that. The only other person I could think he can beat or top that is if he plays Woody from Toy Story.
Oh man, that would be something else, wouldn't it?
Imagine that.
If only.
All right.
Fred, any last words?
Last
I
word?
mean, you were also.
Nah, I'm good.
All right.
No? Okay.
Well, Ariel, you want to close this out
Under
then?
contract?
Yep. Thanks for listening, everyone. Hit that subscribe button on your podcasting app to make sure you are always notified when a new episode of this show comes out. And continue to hear us babble. And please, if you are willing, give us a rating and a review. It really helps and lets us know what else, and also let us know what you'd like to hear from this podcast, because we can only get better with your help. So once again, we are the Undercast Company, made up of myself, Ariel, and Sergio Ortiz of Nerd Incorporated. That's at Nerd Incorp on Instagram. Alan and Fred Torres from District 6.
Shout out.
And Derek McDuff, who I also guest star on his Marvel podcast, Infinity Stones and Dragon Bones, where we most recently had an incredible discussion on Avengers Endgame. And we will be recording our next one after Spider-Man Far From Home, and continue to discuss the future of the MCU and the current world of the MCU as well. We'll be back soon with another film, so stay tuned. And thanks for being amazing.
See you in another life, brother.